the data back into potential forecasts for them. So it's, I think with all these
version, the salesperson cares about like forecasts and
to the surface to get a weather forecast to make sure it's safe to continue down.
Is going to have the major role in the forecast in March.
Well, there be
early March is we'll have a new revenue forecast, and the revenue forecast
is in being a little bit better with forecasts.
Well, the
March forecast becomes that much more important, I assume. No, absolutely.
And they are able now with computers to analyze vast quantities of this data to forecast like staffing needs and, you know, again, shelf.
There's no forecast model that shows the revenues increasing to meet the needs of our expenditures.
Revenues are better than forecast?
I think we will.
Work on together to make the one very best forecast, keep politics out of it.
Committee, and of course you've got the March 9th revenue forecast, which may or may not.
We took and downsized the Dalrymple forecast about $170 million.
You know, trying to project what a 2-year revenue forecast is going to be is not an easy job.
Statement to say that the March revenue forecast is even.
Which had a 5-year forecast. And surprisingly, all of them said.
See, they have the shipping forecast, which is this.
But there's no way to forecast it, and it gets very, very expensive, except.
They do really good international energy analysis. They publish a world forecast every year that's really good.
Forecast and forewarnings. We thought we would analyze
in the forecast, even the long-range forecast that will get them started in harvest. If anything, they may be a little
that predict climate change, forecast the weather, run the CERN.
Here's a forecast. This is kind of interesting.
Foundation for the climate change forecast. He teaches a class on global.
Those numbers I forecast, I think, with some confidence.
In your forecast, you know, there's more certainty in your forecast, and then
exactly forecast what subsequently happened. He said that when times are tense, diplomatic times are tense, and we're.
If I just said weather forecast, the next word could likely be today or
it would be harder to forecast early on exactly what the cash flows would be.
Predict what's going to happen. And when you look at a weather forecast, what you're really looking at is a probability. They're looking at a lot.
A climatologist doesn't forecast the weather far in advance, but rather
3%, a remarkably successful transition when you consider some of the gloomier forecasts of a few years ago. This is the focus of our economic.
Because it's a forecast that we can change if we have the will to do it. First of all, we have to think about the magnitude.
In March. In 2017, the OBR forecast growth to slow to 1.
Forecast from earlier. Instead, this is a possible weather forecast for distant hot Jupiter exoplanets, according to new observations.
The prize is given to financial journalists whose economic forecast for the coming year